President Donald Trump does not practice kindness. In fact, he may be the antithesis of kindness. In a departure from our usual programming, where we like to highlight and illustrate kind deeds, we're going to take a top 10 look, remembering some of the moments of Trump's presidency that left many shocked and in disbelief.
More wretched hive of scum and villainy.
During his presidency, he was often brash, unapologetic, hurtful, and fueled by rage.
You don't know the power of the dark side.
He's got everything from shocking speeches, divisive policies, hateful tweets, to inciting a riot. In fact, there were so many examples of Emperor Trump's mistreatment of others during his presidency that it could not be contained in just one top 10 list. So we've compiled a top 10 list for every year that he's been in office. Oh, good Lord. Trump's tenure as president has been a roller coaster of bold moves and biting remarks, leaving a trail of unkindness that has sparked outrage, fear, and debate. It is going to be a bumpy ride.
Another happy landing.
So what were the top 10 moments that truly set the tone for his presidency? What were the moments that had the world gasping in disbelief? And which of these unkind deeds made the top of our top 10 list? Stick around to find out, as some of these actions are more shocking than finding out
I am your father.
North Korea Rocket Man speech. During a speech at the United Nations, President Trump referred to the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un as the Rocket Man and threatened to totally destroy North Korea if it threatened the U.S.
We will have no choice but to totally destroy North Korea. Rocket Man is on a suicide mission for himself and for his regime. The United States is ready, willing, and able.
The provocative rhetoric escalated tensions between the two countries and raised fears of a potential nuclear conflict.
It's all about
Antagonizing and mocking fellow hothead with a nuclear arsenal is only number 10 on the list. I can't wait to see what else is coming.
The ability to destroy a planet is insignificant.
President Trump pardoned Arizona Sheriff Joe Arpaio, who was convicted of criminal contempt for ignoring a court order to stop racially profiling Latinos.
Do the people in this room like Sheriff Joe? Was Sheriff Joe convicted for doing his job? But Sheriff Joe can feel good.
The pardon was criticized by civil rights groups, as well as fellow politicians, as being an endorsement of racial discrimination, as well as being a disregard for the rule of law. Giving a hall pass to a bully after he gets detention for beating somebody up? Go on, keep terrorizing the playground. Number 8 on the list of top 10 Trump unkind deeds. Well, hello there, little one. Is that? You have a message for me? We told you this list was going to be shocking. Trump's administration was widely criticized for the slow and inadequate response to the devastation left by Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico. Trump's statements that Puerto Ricans want everything done for them, and his downplaying of the disaster's impact, led to accusations of neglect and insensitivity towards the island's residents.
There's a lot of love in this. Yeah, and it's not coming from him. There's a lot of disrespect coming from him. The president was disregarding our lives. People were dying. People are still dying. We don't even know how many people have died from the botched effort.
This pales in comparison to some of the examples of insensitivity and neglect that Trump inflicts at the top of the list. We are just getting warmed up.
So the fun begins.
Glenn's response to Hurricane Maria was like waiting for dial-up internet. Both were painfully slow, outdated, and frustratingly unhelpful once they got there. Trump announced a ban on transgender people serving in the military, stating that their service caused great medical costs and disruption.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
We face legal challenges and backlash from the LGBTQ+ community, advocates, and civil rights organizations who viewed it as discriminatory and harmful to transgender individuals who were already serving honorably. Ensuring that the stormtrooper ranks stay strictly uniform in their lack of diversity, Trump harshly criticized NFL players who opted to take a knee during the national anthem in a protest against racial injustice, calling upon team owners to fire the players.
Get that son of a off the field right now. Out. He's fired. Fired! NFL has to change. Or you know what's going to happen? Their business is going to go to hell.
You have to stand proudly for the national anthem. Well, you shouldn't be playing. You shouldn't be there. Maybe you shouldn't be in the country.
Very disrespectful to our country. I think it's very, very disrespectful to our flag.
He has made you powerful.
His remarks ignited national debate about free speech, patriotism, and racial issues, with many athletes and advocates defending the protest as a legitimate form of expression. Never missing a chance to fumble the ball, President Trump takes a knee-jerk reaction. If you really want an example of Trump missing balls, you're going to be mortified at one of our honorable mentions that didn't make this list due to a technicality. Withdrawing from the Paris Climate Agreement, Trump announced that the U.S. would withdraw from the Paris Climate Agreement, the international accord aimed at combating climate change.
We're going to cancel the Paris Climate Agreement.
Who needs a climate? What has the climate ever done for us?
The United States will withdraw from the Paris Climate Accord.
The decision was met with widespread criticism from environmental groups, scientists, and fellow global leaders, who argued that it undermined global international efforts to address climate change and harmed America's international standing. Pulling out of the Paris Climate Agreement, it's like the Empire deciding that the Death Star doesn't need a shield. What could possibly go wrong?
Treason, then.
Trump announced the end for the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, otherwise known as DACA, which protected hundreds of thousands of undocumented immigrants from deportation who were brought to the U.S. as children. The decision faced immediate legal challenges and protests, with critics arguing that it endangered the lives of dreamers and that it disrupted families and communities. We don't want your Ewoks here. Hey, go back to Endor.
I am a cynic.
It's just a warm-up for the human rights injustices in Trump's number 2 unkind deed of his first year in presidency. So there's something to look forward to. Before we round out our top 10 list, let's take a look at some of the honorable mentions that didn't make the list. During his presidential campaign, Trump called for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States.
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what the hell is going on.
The proposal was condemned as being un-American and discriminatory and received widespread criticism and protests from various different groups. Mocking a disabled reporter, why not?
The poor guy, you got to see this guy. I don't know what I said. I don't remember.
During a 2015 campaign rally, Trump appeared to mock a disabled news reporter, Sergei Kovaleski, who has a congenital joint condition. The incident was widely criticized for being disrespectful and cruel, and Trump faced significant backlash for his insensitivity.
He turned her against me.
Grabbed him by the... In a Hollywood Access tape, Trump was heard bragging about grabbing women without their consent.
I did try and she was married. I moved on her like a but I couldn't get there. And she was married. I don't even way. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything. Grab them by the
This revelation during the 2016 campaign led to a surge of allegations of sexual misconduct against Trump and widespread outrage over his behavior.
Done that yourself.
Yes, in the previous entries in our honorable mentions didn't make the top 10 list because they technically happened prior to Trump's first year in office. You have got to be an exceptionally special human being with xenophobia, racism, sexual assault, and mocking the disabled. Don't crack the top 10 of your unkind deeds. There is enough footage here that we could do a prequel, or 2, or 3. Number 3. Firing of FBI Director James Comey. Trump dismissed Comey while he led the investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election.
The FBI, as part of our counterintelligence mission, is investigating the nature of any links between individuals associated with the Trump campaign and the Russian government.
Why did you fire Director Comey?
Because he wasn't doing a good job, very simply. He was not doing a good job.
Did it affect your meeting with the Russians today?
Why? Excuse me?
Did it affect your meeting with the Russians today? Will the new FBI director be in charge of the Russia investigation?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Mike, this action raised concerns about obstruction of justice and abuse of power.
The termination and removal of James Comey raises the critical question as to whether the FBI investigation of Russian interference in the last presidential campaign will continue, and whether the investigation into any collusion or involvement by the Trump campaign will also be investigated by the FBI.
As many perceived it as an attempt to derail the investigation. This firing led to the appointment of special counsel Robert Mueller to take over the investigation into Russian collusion. It's like Darth Vader firing Admiral Pewitt for daring to investigate who blew up the Death Star. Spoiler alert, it wasn't the Ewoks.
Careful not to choke on your aspiration.
In the number 2 entry into the top 10 Trump misdeeds, the Muslim travel ban. Trump issued an executive order banning citizens of 7 predominantly Muslim countries from entering the U.S. The order sparked widespread protests at airports, legal challenges, and accusations of religious discrimination and Islamophobia.
to keep radical Islamic terrorists out of the United States of America. We don't want them here.
This travel ban, this was like Trump's way of saying, you know what this country needs? Less diversity and more international outrage. It's going to be great. Critics argued that it unfairly targeted Muslims and that it contradicted American values of diversity and inclusion. Trump's travel ban was like forbidding stormtroopers from entering the Death Star. Ineffective and aimed at the wrong people. The Charlottesville remarks.
You also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
After a white supremacist rally in Charlottesville, Virginia, where a counter-protester was killed in resulting violence, President Trump made the statement that there were very fine people on both sides. This comment was widely condemned as it appeared to equate white supremacists with those protesting against them, leading to accusations that Trump was defending racists. Well, it looks like Trump missed that part of history class, where they explained that the Nazis are always the bad guy.
George Washington was a slave owner. Was George Washington a slave owner? So will George Washington now lose his status? Are we going to take down, are we going to take down statues to George Washington? How about Thomas Jefferson? What do you think of Thomas Jefferson? You like him? Okay, good. Are we going to take down the statue? Because he was a major slave owner. Now, are we going to take down his statue?
You know, I'm sure when the rebels blew up the Death Star, Trump would have said that there's very fine people on both sides of the empire. That doesn't make it any less of a disaster.
You had a lot of bad people in the other group.
Most impressive.
So there you have it, our top 10 list of unkind acts by President Trump during his first year in office. It is astounding, mind-blowing, that there were so many examples of unkind deeds that we had to do multiple installments of the segment, but here we are. If you enjoyed this list, check out episode 2, The Empire Strikes Back. Vader.
You're all clear, kid. Now let's go home.